What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back to a new review. Today we are checking out a very compact 5-inch field monitor called the E5. So you can find this for about $150, and if you've been looking at this online you may have seen another one called the Eyoyo E5. Well, they're basically the same product, but with this one, with the E5 we get some colored accents on the back, but other than that they're the exact same product. And I'm actually gonna leave some links in the video's description just in case you wanna check any of them out. One of the main features for this monitor is the fact that it supports a 4K input, so it will take that and downscale it to 1080p, which is the resolution of the monitor, but it does that internally, and that means that the camera doesn't have to do the extra work to downscale that 4K signal to 1080p, and that's great because this way the camera is not gonna get warmer than it should, because it's not gonna have to do any extra work, so that's definitely a great feature to have. Alright, so we're gonna start with a very quick unboxing. So this comes in a fairly plain looking box. Inside the box we're obviously gonna find the monitor itself. There is also a user manual. The user manual is in English. We have an HDMI cable, but the HDMI cable didn't work for my cameras and I use a Sony a6300 and a Sony a6500. There is also a sunshade that's very useful, mostly if you're gonna use this outside. And aside from that, we're gonna find an articulating arm, and that's great if you wanna mount this in a special way and you just don't wanna mount it on top of your camera. The monitor itself, it's mostly made out of plastic and it only weighs about 140 grams, and this is in fact smaller than my Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, so that's great mostly if you plan on using this mounted on top of your camera because the added weight is manageable. Now it really depends what kind of a battery you're using with it, because if you're using a 10,000 mAh battery, obviously the weight is gonna increase, but that's up to you what battery you're gonna use with it. And talking about batteries, well, you can either use a LPE6 or a F970, it really depends what you have at home, and if you're actually using this indoors, there is a port for a power adapter on the side and you could use that instead of batteries. As for ports, we have an HDMI in, we also have an HDMI out, and that's great if you want to connect another monitor to this one, and of course we have a 3.5mm audio jack so you can plug in some headphones and you can monitor the sound. We also have 3/4 inch screw holes, one at the bottom, one at the top and one at the side, and that's useful if you don't plan on mounting this on top of your camera. So for example, if you're using a gimbal or a tripod or a mount or something like that, at least we have more options where to mount the field monitor. The 5-inch screen is an IPS panel that has a 1080p resolution. We also get great viewing angles and the colors seem to be very accurate as well. Now if you don't find the colors accurate, you can also adjust the colors from the monitor's menu, so it's very simple to do so, and the brightness is also adjustable, and if you use that sunshade that comes in the box and you adjust the brightness, you can easily see this outside. Now the thing that I appreciate the most about this monitor is the very small latency, so whatever you see on the camera you see on the monitor right away, and that's very important because I've seen some other monitors in the past that had like half a second latency, but that's not the case with this one, so there is almost no latency with this particular monitor. Now if you're using a monitor with a cheaper camera like the Sony a6300 or the Sony a6500 or a bunch of other cheaper cameras, unfortunately the cameras aren't gonna output any information through that HDMI signal. So you cannot see the ISO, you cannot see the focus peaking, you cannot see the shutter speed, you cannot see anything, you can only see the image, so basically whatever the camera sees. And that is disappointing and definitely annoying, and that's why you have to get a monitor that has some built-in features like focus peaking, for example, and this monitor has all those features built in. So for focus peaking you can also adjust the color. You have red, blue, green or white, and it really depends what you're recording, because if you're filming a forest obviously you're not going to be able to use the green focus peaking and so on. We also have a histogram and you can also see what's overexposed on the screen. So definitely helpful features, mostly if you have a camera like mine, like the Sony a6300, that doesn't display any of that information. There is also a sound level meter available, and that's definitely useful so you can check the volume, and the monitor has built-in speakers as well, but if you have the speakers on, you're basically gonna hear everything that you talk through the monitor speakers, so you're gonna have to mute that before you start recording. The monitor even supports a few languages, and to be honest I wasn't actually expecting that. You can also flip the screen, and you can also configure one button at the top, so it really depends what function you're using the most. Me personally, I use the focus peaking the most, and I've configured that button at the top for that, but you can change it to whatever you'd use the most. Now there is one thing I wish to have been changed for this monitor, and that is the power on off button. So the power on off button sits at the top here, and whenever you press the power button, the monitor basically goes into a sleeping state, so it's not totally off. So if you're gonna leave a battery plugged in overnight, by the time you get to use the monitor in the morning, the battery is gonna be drained. So I wish the monitor would have had the power on off button that can cut off the power completely to the battery, because, well, you don't want to recharge that battery every single time you leave it plugged in. Now, a simple solution would be to actually take the battery out every time you're done using this, but sometimes you may forget, so that would have been nice to see. Aside from that, I don't really have any bad things to say about it. It's small enough so you can actually take it to do anywhere. It's light enough so you can mount it on your camera and then you can hold the camera in your hand. Because if you have like a 10-inch monitor, that's not gonna be possible. I love the fact that it gets bright enough so you can use it outside, and overall I love the portability. That's the most important thing for this 5-inch monitor. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, don't forget to press that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.